Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're going to continue our reading from chapter number 2, The Demon King Hiranyakashipu, from the 7th canto of Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhete girim yat kripa tabham vande Shri Gurum Deen Tarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Chapter 2, The Demon King Hiranyakashipu, Canto 7, from Canto 7, The Science of God. Narad suggested that Yudhishthir first complete the Rajasuya sacrifice, later I will explain everything. As promised, when Krishna's worship was complete, Narad said, "Hear now the reason for Hiranyakashipu's enmity toward his son." Rakshas warriors leapt from their steeds and rushed toward the palace entrance. Guards immediately blocked their way. "Halt! State your business. We must see King Hiranyakashipu. It is urgent. We have terrible news." A messenger ran to inform the king, and soon as the Rakshasas were escorted to Hiranyakashipu's court, falling to their knees, their leader said, "Lord, forgive us, but we bear the ill tidings of your brother's death." Hiranyakashipu sprang from his throne. "What? Impossible! Hiranyaksha is invincible. Neither celestials, demons, nor humans can match his power. My Lord Vishnu himself descended as a boar to kill your heroic brother." Hiranyakashipu's complexion reddened, and he gripped the hilt of his sword so tightly that it shattered. Tears streamed from down his face, and he breathed hot and heavy sighs. He bit his lips and glared upward. Fire shot from his body, filling the sky with smoke. Gnashing his terrific teeth and glancing fiercely about, he strode to his weapon's chest. He snatched up his trident and turned to face the assembled warriors. "O sons of Danu and Diti, listen to me. You are all mighty heroes. Here stand the powerful Dvimurdha, Triyaksha, Shambhara, Shatabahu, Hayagriva, Namuchi, Paka, Ilvala, Viprachitti, Puloman, Shakuna, and many others. Now listen carefully and then immediately carry out my order." The warriors cheered and waved their weapons in the air. "Those insignificant gods have banded together to kill my brother Hiranyaksha, who was always obedient to me and desired my prosperity." The assembled warriors roared, "Revenge, revenge." Others called out, "How could the puny gods overpower the invincible Hiranyaksha?" Hiranyakashipu raised his hands to quieten the warriors. Even though Vishnu is normally equal to the gods and us, on this occasion, pleased by their devout worship, he sided with them to kill my brother. A hush fell over the demons. Many thought it unwise to do battle with Vishnu. Some called out, "Maybe if we worship him, he will side with us." Hiranyakashipu scowled at them. "Worship him?" he spat furiously. "Worship him? Never. His fate is sealed. I will slay him for his treachery." The demons looked uneasy. One of them spoke nervously. "Lord, the scriptures say Vishnu is supreme. How do you propose to kill him?" Hiranyakashipu glared at his soldier. He spoke through clenched teeth. "Vishnu is renowned as a supreme person because of his neutrality toward the demons and the gods. Now he has given up that impartiality. Taking the form of a boar, he has sided with the gods. This means he has fallen from his supreme position and come down under the influence of the material energy like everyone else. He is now no better than a restless child and will soon die at my hands. I shall sever his head with my trident and offer his foaming blood to the departed soul of my brother, Hiranyaksha, who was so fond of blood. There will be no peace until I have avenged my brother's death." Many demons applauded Hiranyakashipu's plan, but others continued to object. "The gods will be furious if you harm Vishnu. They will surely seek revenge. Once Vishnu is dead, the gods will wither up like tree with cut roots." More and more demons came round to the idea, but a few still shook their heads. "You underestimate Vishnu's strength," Hiranyakashipu snorted. "He derives his power from people on earth, who are governed by the saintly kings and directed by Brahmins. They always engage in austerity, sacrifice, Vedic study, adherence to religious vows, and giving charity while I seek Vishnu, all of you should go to earth and destroy those who are the source of his power. Specifically, target the Brahmins. With them eliminated, the kings will stop performing sacrifices. Both Vishnu and the gods depend on these sacrifices for their strength. With the Brahmins dead, they will all die. All opposition to Hiranyakashipu's plan melted away. The demon hordes raised their weapons and cheered wildly. Kill the Brahmins, kill the Brahmins. Hiranyakashipu bellowed over the din, also slaughter anyone who protects the Brahmins or cows, who studies the Vedas or follows the principles of Varnashrama. Kill them, burn down their homes, and cut down all the trees. Enlivened by the prospect of pillaging and murdering defenseless citizens, the demon soldiers saluted their leader. All glories to Hiranyakashipu, they cheered. Mounting their chariots and steeds, they descended to the earth. They set fire to the cities, villages, barns, forests, hermitages, and mines, and tore up the pasturing grounds, orchards, and agricultural fields. Some demons demolished bridges and the protective walls and gates around the cities. Others cut down all fruit-bearing trees, while others raced through the streets of residential areas, torching the houses. After the initial massacre, the demons' commanders announced that they would leave any remaining civilians unharmed if they ceased offering sacrifices to the gods or Vishnu. Terrified and traumatized by the ordeal, those who had survived the carnage came out of hiding and returned to their devastated homes. They gave up all religious practices and the demon soldiers left them alone. Some months passed and the gods received no sacrifices. Perturbed, they invisibly came to the earth to see why people had stopped worshipping them. Wandering over the planet, they became alarmed to see the evidence of terrible disasters everywhere. Back on the Daitya's planet, Hiranyakashipu performed the funeral rites of Hiranyaksha, his mother Diti, his sister-in-law Rishabhanu, and 9 nephews all wept inconsolably. Seeing their grief, his sorrow increased, as did his anger toward Vishnu, whom he blamed for his brother's death. Over the following days, Diti, Rishabhanu, and her 9 sons hardly ate. Their sleep was fitful, and they would often wake up as if from a nightmare. Their appearance became increasingly wretched because of the devastating grief that burned their hearts. Hiranyakashipu tried his best to cheer them with talks of revenge, but they were inconsolable. Finally, though he had no genuine faith in the spiritual teaching he had heard from his father Kashyap, he spoke to them about the eternal soul. My dear mother, sister, and nephews, do not lament. Hiranyaksha died a hero's death, facing the enemy. Try also to understand the transient nature of this world. Just as travelers sorry, I've lost the paragraph here. Just as the travelers meet for a short while in a restaurant and then go to their separate ways, so are we brought together in this world for only a brief time. His youngest nephew sobbed, Uncle, why is father dead? Now, my boy, try to understand the soul never dies. If father is a soul, where has he gone? The pure soul can travel freely throughout the material and spiritual worlds. I cannot do that. That's because you are trapped in a material body. The pure soul can do anything because it has full knowledge. Why am I trapped in a material body? Good question, my boy, good question. The Vedas say, when we misuse our independence, we must accept a subtle and gross body. This is the reason we are subject to material happiness and distress. Your father is free of this material body now, so there is no need to lament for him. Diti said, son, we are eternal souls. How have we become material beings? Hiranyakashipu said, the soul never becomes material. It only appears so because the material energy projects the qualities of matter onto the soul. I'll repeat. Hiranyakashipu said, the soul never becomes material. It only appears so because the material energy projects the qualities of matter onto the soul. So we can see These demons were very knowledgeable, but their desires and actions were confused. I don't understand. You have seen how, when we are by a lake and the water is agitated, the trees reflected in the water look like they are moving. The trees are not moving, it seems like they are because their reflection moves. Everyone looked at him blankly. Let me give you another example, he said. He picked up one of his nephews and whirled him around till he was dizzy. Placing the boy down, he said, What do you see? The boy tottered from side to side. The room is moving. His brothers laughed. No, it's not, they cried out. It looks like it's moving to him because I made him dizzy, said Hiranyakashipu. In the same way, my dear gentle mother, the soul is never subject to the body's changes. He only thinks he is because by nature 3 modes agitate his mind. Thus bewildered, the soul identifies with the material body and mind, and he thinks some people to be family and others to be strangers. It is only because of such misconceptions that he suffers. All our worldly happiness and suffering are simply because of an accumulation of such misconceptions. Influenced by the nature's modes, the pure soul engages in various activities which determine his next birth in different species. This is called samsara. The repetition of birth and death in the material world, depending upon how the modes affect us, we either continue in material existence, experience birth, death, lamentation, foolishness, or we may come to the path of spiritual knowledge and realize who we are. But if the modes change, we can again become bewildered. He beamed down at them, but they all stayed glumly. I miss him so much, wailed Rushbhanu. I do not think I can bear to live another day without him. Diti also began sobbing, and soon they were all wailing. Hiranyakashipu frowned. They had not understood a thing. He said, Listen, I will tell you a story. It is an old story about Yamaraj talking to some bereaved ladies. Please listen attentively. His nephews huddled around him, and even Rashpanu and Diti wiped their tears and moved closer. Long, long ago, he said, there lived a handsome and heroic king named Suyagya, who ruled the kingdom of Ushinara. He had many adoring wives, and his citizens loved him. As the story unfolded, the sobs subsided, and soon both the boys and the ladies listened with the fascination as Hiranyakashipu described how a rival king attacked Ushinara and killed Suyagya. His golden bejeweled armor was smashed, his ornaments and garlands were strewn about, his hair was scattered, and his eyes became lustreless. The slain king lay on the battlefield smeared with blood, his heart pierced by the enemy's arrows. Dust covered his fine features, and his weapons lay smashed by his side. When the queens saw their dead husband, they wailed in sorrow, Dear Lord, we too have been killed with your death. Repeating these words again and again, they fell at the king's feet, beating their chests. Tears ran down their breasts, which were smeared with red turmeric powder. Their hair became disarrayed. Their ornaments fell, and they lamented piteously, evoking the sympathy of all who saw them. They cried out to their dead husband, O Lord, cruel providence has taken you from us. Protected by you, the citizens of Ushinara were happy, but now, like us, they are plunged into grief. O hero, you were such a good and kind husband. How can we possibly live without you? We wish to go wherever you have gone and again serve you. Meanwhile, soldiers built a funeral pyre, but when they tried to raise the king's body onto it, his queens held tightly on him. Brahmins tried to reason with them. O blessed ladies, the time for his cremation will soon pass. Do you not see how the sun has completed the movements and is beginning to set in the west? Rishabhanu began weeping again, but the eldest boy asked, What happened then, uncle? Did Suyagya have a brother like you to avenge him? Hiranyakashipu laughed. No, boy, something much more fascinating happened. Something involving a small boy like this one. He rubbed the head of his youngest nephew. And now listen carefully, because this is where it gets exciting. Rishbhanu's weeping stopped Everyone crowded in and listened even more attentively. Hiranyakashipu continued. Suyagya's queens cried so loudly that Yamaraj heard them and came from his plutonic planet. Appearing as a small boy, he spoke spiritual philosophy to soothe their minds. Do you know what he told them? That we are not the material body but eternal souls, said one of the boys, mimicking what Hiranyakashipu told them earlier. Very good, boy, very good, but he told them other things too. Tell us, uncle, tell us, said a few of the boys. The tears were drying up as they became more absorbed in the story. Hiranyakashipu drew a deep breath and leaned forward, looking at each of them as he began his story. Sobbing women weaved their way through dead bodies and broken chariots, calling their husbands' names. Among them were Suyagya's queens. Spotting his royal flag, they hurried in its direction. Suyagya's lifeless and bloodied body lay sprawled in a few feet room, his broken chariot dropping next to him, and sorry, dropping next to him, one cradled his head and the others clasped his body. They wept loudly, calling his name and remonstrating with Providence as the sun dipped lower in the sky. Soldiers carried the dead bodies to the funeral pyre. Suyagya's queens, however, would not relinquish his body. Brahmins came and tried gently to persuade the queens to allow his body to be taken, but they seemed not to hear. One young effulgent Brahmin boy appeared on the scene close to the queens. He spoke loud enough for them to hear. Alas, I cannot believe how these women are behaving. They are older than me and they have seen so many births and deaths. They must have known that they too will one day die. How is it then that they are so bewildered by their husband's death? Surely they know the soul is eternal. Before entering this body, it was somewhere else, another living this body. It will go to another place. Why then we are traveling? Why then are they uselessly lamenting? I'm just a small boy, yet I understand the simple truth. How is it these grown women do not? The queen sobbing subsided. One said, Child, we do not lament for our husbands, for we know the eternality of the soul. We lament our misfortunes. Our misfortune, for now that our husband is gone, we have no one to protect us. The boy pointed to himself. Look at me. I'm still fortunate enough, though both my parents are dead. Despite being small and weak, I've wandered this earth freely, unharmed by the ferocious animals. The queens raised their husband's body and sat up. They looked at the child in wonder. The boy pointed to himself. Look at me. I'm still fortunate enough, though both my parents are dead. Despite being small and weak, I've wandered this earth freely, unharmed by any ferocious animal. The queens released their husband's body and sat up. They looked at the child in wonderment. How had he remained so healthy and well despite? The boy smiled. The supreme Lord of all beings who protected me while in my mother's womb continues to protect me. This is my firm conviction. One queen said, O child, why did the Lord did not protect your husband? The boy replied, O weak women, why do you find fault with God? He is free to protect or annihilate as he wishes. He is not our order carrier. Being supreme, he can do whatever he wishes. He created this entire world by his own will, and by his will he is freely to destroy it. Why create us just to destroy us, Ram? Uh, it's who created us just to destroy us, exclaimed another person. It is this pastime, asserted the boy. It's not our business to challenge him. He is not questionable to. He is not answerable to you and me. He is a supreme person and he can do as he pleases. The queen recoiled at the force. Sorry. The queen's recoiled at the force of his words. Seeing this, the boy's manner softened. You are anxious about who will protect you. Am I right? The queen's nodded. Then instead of uselessly challenging Krishna, seek his protection. When he protects you, no one can harm you, even if you wander alone in the jungle. On the other hand, if you may live at home surrounded by relatives, but without on the other hand, if you may live at home with the surrounded by relatives, but without the projection, surrounded by relatives, but without his protection, you will die. This is true, however, Shimlamich, although this is true about everything, let me give you another example. I know of a man who dropped his money on a public street, yet protected by destiny. No one saw it and he later retrieved it. On the other hand, many men are I know of a man who dropped his money on a public street, yet protected by destiny. No one saw it and he later retrieved it. On the other hand, many people with their money supposedly safe at home have it stolen. One queen said, "Why does the Lord favor some and ignore others? Is he not meant to be equal?" The boy said, "Each of us takes birth in a specific body and then leave it because of the reactions of our previous deeds. Although the spirit soul differs from the material body, nature's three modes subjugate him because of his misdeeds. Therefore, my dear queens, I urge you to trust Krishna and surrender to his guidance. By so doing, you will get out of the material life and return home to Godhead. If I am not the body," said one of the queen, "why do I feel I am?" The boy said, "I have seen people crying grievously when their house burns down. Why they are not their house, so why do they lament?" He paused for dramatic effect when cloned, then continued, because they identify with other house. This some ignorance induces us to why they are not the house, so why do they lament? He paused for a dramatic effect, then continued, because they identify with their house. This same ignorance induces us to identify with our material body. The body is simply a combination of earth, water, fire, which we will soon demonstrate. But objected the queen, while we are in the body, we are one with it. The boy shook his head. No, no, at all. Fire is dormant in wood, but when it is different from wood, the queen shook his head. Objected the queen, while we are in the body, we are one with it. The boy shook his head. No, not at all. Fire is dormant in wood, but is different from wood. The queen looked confused. Although you are the body, you're different from the sorry. Not at all. Fire is dormant in wood, but it is different from wood. The queens looked confused. Although you are in the body, although you are in the body, you differ from it, said the boy. Here are some other examples to help you understand. Breathe deeply through your mouth and then exhale through your nose. Although you are in the body, you differ from it, said the boy. Here are some other examples to help you understand. Breathe deeply through your mouth and then exhale through your nose. The queens did as he asked. Although you are in the body, you differ from it, said the boy. Here are some other examples to help you understand. Breathe deeply through your mouth and then exhale through your nose. The queen did as he asked. So, said the boy, the air was in your nostrils and mouth. Does it mean the air is in your nostril and mouth? Similarly, although you, the soul, are in your body, you remains different from your body and mind. Another queen said, since we love a husband, it is natural that we should mourn him now that he lies slain on the battlefield. The boy laughed. O foolish lady, you have only known the king's body. It is that you loved and it still lies before you. So why lament? No, objected the queen. We loved him, the person inside who listened and spoke to us. You never saw that person, insisted that boy. You only ever see the external body which is still here. Since you never saw the soul within, why lament that he has gone? One queen objected. I may not have seen him, but we felt him. We would place our heads on his chest and feel his life airs as he breathed. The boy Yamaraj shook his head. As important as the life air is, it is not the person who heard you or spoke to you. It depends on the presence of the soul and supersoul. You should know that your husband's where can we find a husband? Where he has gone? What he's doing? My dear lady, replied boy. He has accepted another material body made of 5 elements, 10 senses and mind. And if you keep yourself in the darkness of material consciousness, this will appear to your phone. However, by cultivating higher intelligence, you can return back to the Lord's abode after this life. Until you understand who you are and the subtle body comprising the mind, intelligence, and false ego will entrap you and carry you from one from one material body to another to suffer birth after birth. Several queens objected there was no suffering when we were with the husband, only happiness. Now he has gone, we are miserable. The boy scoffed. What is the point of talking about the happiness and distress of this world as if they were real? They are ephemeral, like the joy and sorrow we experience in a dream, and therefore have no value. A queen objected. We never heard this from our court Brahmins. They would do so many sacrificial rituals so that we could enjoy eternally. Another added. Sometimes a visiting sage would preach that everything is an illusion, including our individuality. The boy nodded. Yes, I know of such people. Your court Brahmins were Mimamsa philosophers who think material existence is eternal, and the sages who think everything, including the individual soul, is impermanent, were Sankhyaites. However, my dear ladies, both are wrong. The self-realized know that the spirit soul is eternal and the material body is perishable. Only this knowledge frees us from suffering, but it is hard for those engrossed in illusion to grasp. The queens gave each other a puzzled glance, and then they lay their heads back on their husband's body to continue to sob. The boy sighed. This was going over the queen's heads. He needed to try something else. Listen, he said. I will tell you about a hunter who would lure birds with food and then capture them in his net. And kill them. Please listen. I'm sure you will find this story helpful. The queens turned their heads toward him and wiped their eyes. Please tell us one, said one. The hunter wiped the sweat from his forehead. He had laid his traps early in the mornings, but all of them were as empty as his belly. He hoped there would be something in his last trap, otherwise he would have to go to bed hungry again. He pushed aside the thick foliage and grinned widely at what he saw. Just a few feet from him were two fat pigeons. The female was entangled in his lair, and the male was pecking feverishly at the net. The male bird regularly emitted a piercing sound. The man chuckled to himself, upset that I have got your wife, are you, little bird? He murmured, well, maybe you can join her. The male bird gave up his futile efforts to free his partner and sat next to him to the net, emitting forlorn cries. The ruthless hunter thought he could see tears coming from its eyes. The foolish bird could not bear separation from its wife. That was going to prove fatal. He stealthily strung his bow and aimed his arrow at the male. Are you feeling sad for your babies back in the nest? He muttered. Well, you just wait right there and soon they will be orphans. He released his arrow and hit the bird in the chest. The queens gasped. How horrible, poor bird. If only he had fled while he had a chance. How silly of him, the boy said. You remind me of that creature. You foolishly lament for your husband, but you do not know that he will never come back, no matter how much you grieve. In the meantime, you are wasting the little time you have left alive. Death stalks us all. Diti Rishbhanu and her 9 sons sat open-mouthed and wide-eyed as they listened to Hiranyakashipu. The youngest boy said, what happened to Suyagya's queens? Well, said Hiranyakashipu, they finally realized that everything in the material world was temporary, including their bodies. Then, to their amazement, the boy disappeared. They slowly stood up and told the soldiers to take Suyagya's body and perform his funeral ceremony. His youngest nephew said, what was the point, uncle? Hiranyakashipu picked him up and placed him in his lap. We should not get too bothered about the body's death, whether it is another person or our own. You see, we are not the body. It is simply ignorance to think, I am this body, this person is my mother, brother, etc. Diti wiped her eyes and stood up. Where are you going, mother? Asked Vrushbhanu. Hiranyakashipu is right. Why waste any more of our time lamenting for the perishable body? Soon it will be my time to die. Before that time comes, I want to realize the truth of who I am. She turned to leave. Vrushbhanu stood up. Wait, mother, I will come with you. So next time we will continue our reading of chapter 3. Hiranyakashipu tries to become immortal. Thank you for joining. Ariham Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai.